Well, welcome back to another interesting segment, which we are going to focus on learning and one theory, which is behavioral learning theory. There are so many theories, but this video we are going to focus on behavioral learning theory. And these are the key ways we would normally going to see them as we go into the other slides. Then we're also going to answer or use them to answer questions. And these questions will help you to understand these terms better. Once again, if you have not subscribed, type on subscribe to enjoy the next videos. Probably you might not get the link to watch the video, but once you have subscribed, as soon as I post a video over there, you're going to get it, or you're going to be notified. So try and subscribe. All right, so let's move on to another slide and see what is there. All right, so we are going to define or understand what learning is about. What is learning according to behaviorists? So it says that learning is a relative permanent change in behavior that occurs due to experience or practice. Okay, and then these are the key idea when it comes to learning. There will be stimulus. Somebody must respond to the stimulus, and somebody must be either reinforced positively or negatively. But you're going to understand all these terms when you move on. So let's try and watch the video to the end to understand or to get everything about learning theories once over here. So like I said, this is the theory we focus on today, behavioral theory. It says that it's a learning theory that states that all behaviors are acquired through conditioning, which occurs through interaction with the environment. It focuses on observable and then measurable behaviors rather than internal thoughts or feeling. So according to them, behavior is learned through main forms of conditioning. That is a classical conditioning by Pavlov, which you see them in the question and answers for you to understand them better. Operant conditioning, that is by B.F. Skinner. Also, according to behaviorists, they believe that individuals are born as blank slates, that is a tabula rasa. All behaviors are learned from environment. Experience is by environmental experience is not inherited traits, meaning that a child who is honest is learned through model behavior and consequences, not genetics. Right? As we move along, you understand all these answers and questions, or questions and answers. Let's go. Now, what does Pavlov say, or what did Pavlov say? It says that learning occurs when a neutral stimulus becomes associated with a meaningful stimulus, causing a similar response. So Pavlov, in his experiment, before he gave a food to the dog, he rang a bell before a food is being given to the dog. So continuing that manner, later the dog associated the sound of the bear or the bear with the food. He became aware that as soon as a bear is rang, food was going to be given to it. So initially, the food was unconditioned stimulus. Salivation was unconditioned response, right? So later, the bell became conditioned stimulus, and the dog also salivated to the bear. It means that he responded, began to salivate as soon as the bear was rang. Right? So let's move on. So these are the theories and then the main idea. So you can pause the video and then look at them. So John B. Watson, main idea, how learning happens, simple classroom examples. So we can go through, pause the video and then go through. So let's move on to understand some terms which we normally meet them like GS promotion examination. And the first term is stimulus. What is stimulus? Any object, event, or situation in the environment that triggers or provokes somebody's behavior. In this case, I would say learner's behavior. So in a simple term, something that causes a learner to react. For example, when a teacher says, stand up, the instruction here is a stimulus. The ringing of a school bell is also a stimulus. That signals a change, either end of a lesson, break time, or closing time. Now, when this happens, somebody must react to that, and in reacting to that, we call it response. So response is the observable behavior or action that follows a stimulus. It is what the learner does after being exposed to a stimulus. So in simple terms, the learner's reaction to what the teacher says or does. When the teacher says stand up and the learner stands up, it means that the learner is responding to the teacher. That's the response. When the bell rings and the students start packing their books, ready to go home, it means that they are responding to the bell. So the bell being rang is the stimulus. And therefore the students start packing their books and ready to go home, meaning that they are responding to that stimulus, the sound of the bell. Now again, when the teacher asks, what is 2 plus 3? The learner gives the answer 5. So it means that they are responding to the stimulus, 2 plus 3. Alright, so these are the distinction between the stimulus and the response. Alright, we also have punishment. It's a process used to reduce or weaken undesirable or undesired behavior by giving an unpleasant consequence or removing a pleasant after the behavior occurs. In other words, punishment is meant to discourage the behavior from being repeated. You get my point? So when you look at an example, a people who comes to school late is given extra sweeping duties, meaning punishment discouraging or lateness. So this extra duty or sweeping duty is being given to the students with a view of preventing lateness. Okay, now a child who refuses to do homework loses TV time in the evening. If you don't do your homework, I will not permit you to watch TV this evening. Okay, good. So this is punishment. Reinforcement. We have positive and then negative reinforcement. Just like we have positive punishment and then negative punishment, but that one will be seen in the questions and the answers. All right, so reinforcement is the process of strengthening or increasing a desired behavior. It ensures that stimulus response connection becomes strong and likely to repeat. We have two types of reinforcement over here. One is positive reinforcement, that is adding something pleasant to increase behavior. Good. That is if your child does something good, you have to praise the child or give a reward to the child so that this behavior will be repeated. We also have reinforcement. Negative reinforcement. That is removing something unpleasant to increase behavior. So when you stop scolding or rebuking the learner, once the child or the learner begins doing homework, so probably you used to rebuke or scold him, but once you see that he has started, doing what you were expecting him or her to do, you have to remove that unpleasant uh, act you normally impose on him or her. All right. Experience and practice. Again, behaviorists also believe that learning does not just occur suddenly. It happens through repeated practice and experience. All right. So you can pause and then go through some of them. All right. So let's look at the second important example. You say a child learns table manners because each time they behave politely, they are appreciated. Child is practicing something which we think is positive. Keep appreciating what he or she is doing so that they will continue to do it, practice it. All right. Now, I believe we have questions and the answers over here, and that we need to pay attention to this because some of the keywords we could not explain them in the previous slides, but all of them are contained in the questions and the answers. So let's pay close attention to these questions as we answer them. Now, the first question says that according to the behaviorist, learning occurs when we know that learning occurs when there is a change in behavior. When there's a permanent change in behavior, it means that learning actually has occurred. So when you look at the options, the only option that contains change in behavior is option B. So a permanent change in behavior results from experience. So option B will be the answer. So it says that behaviorists define learning as a relative permanent change, which we have already defined it in the previous slide. So let's move on to the next question. A learner begins to associate the ringing of a closing bell with going home. So the ringing of a closing bell, which is the stimulus, would going home and start packing books response before the teacher ends the class. Okay, which type of conditioning involves learning by associating a neutral signal to a natural response? So here there is a stimulus over here, and then they are responding to it. And then which of them talks about that? This goes with Ivan Pavlov. That is classical conditioning. So you go for option B. Option B. Let's look at the next question. When learners realize that misbehaving no longer earns them attention or laughter from classmates, then misbehavior stops. This is due to, so we didn't meet this term in our previous slides. So let's look at this critically. We can have some students in the class, they will continue to misbehave, or probably let's take your child for instance. Your child will continue to misbehave. Now, if you don't react to this misbehavior, there will be a time the child will stop misbehaving because nobody is paying attention to him. So just allow him. There will be a time you get tired. So this behavior will die off. And that is what we call extinction. The behavior dies off when no longer rewarded. No attention is paid to it. Behavior weakens when reinforcement or attention stops. You don't pay attention to him or her, therefore you stop it. And I believe that we normally use this one on some stubborn kids, stubborn sons, and the rest. Sometimes they will behave. You talk, they will not mind you. So when you leave them for some time, they will stop. All right. So that term is called the extension. 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 Now let's move on. When a student learns that touching a hot object leads to pain and avoids doing it again, Thorndike would call this. So Thorndike is also associated with the law of effect. And according to him, behavior producing satisfying effect is likely to be repeated. So if the behavior is satisfying or getting positive effect, it's likely that this behavior will be repeated. So if you touch a hot object, it's quite hot. I don't think you continue to touch the object again. No. So this behavior is not going to be repeated. The law over here is the law of effect. That is what Thorndike says. Law of effect. Okay. The head teacher consistently praises teachers who submit lesson notes on time. Other teachers begin to imitate this behavior. This scenario demonstrates what? The head teacher is adding something pleasant to encourage behavior. So if somebody does something and you add something pleasant, you praise the person, you reward the person, it means that those who are around and the person himself would like to do it more and more. And that is what we call positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement. All right. A child learns handwriting gradually. First, receive praise for holding the pencil correctly. Then, for forming letters. And finally, for writing complete words neatly. The process is, so here step by step. Again, we didn't meet this word in our previous slide. So let's look at, what is it about? Now, which concept involve reinforcing small steps towards a final behavior? So you are shaping somebody's behavior. Now we start from the scratch, go to the murder, go to the final. At the end, the child life or behavior would be shaped. Good. And that's what you call shaping. Shaping. Now let's go. Which of the following best describe the difference between reinforcement and punishment? But we learned that one strengthens behavior, other also weakens behavior. So looking at the options over here, you can see that reinforcement increases behavior and punishment also decreases what? Behavior. Therefore, we go for option B. Alright, let's move on. Which of the following statements shows the correct application of behaviorist approach to classroom management? Okay, so in a classroom behavioral application, we know that using reinforcement and feedback to shape desired behavior. Okay, so behavioral emphasis control reinforcement and feedback, not punishment, to develop appropriate behaviors. So option B be the appropriate one. A teacher rewards people with stickers whenever they complete class or their classwork neatly. Over time, most people begin to submit neat work. This classroom practice is based on what? That is operant condition according to B.F. Skinner. It says that learning occurs through rewards and punishment after a behavior. So a student who gets praise for answering correctly is more likely to participate again. So that is what the operant condition is about. Another question. A teacher gives extra homework to a learner who talks while the lesson is in progress. This is an example of, so the teacher added something unpleasant to stop the talking. Okay, this is what we call positive punishment. Positive punishment occurs when an unpleasant consequence is added to reduce unwanted behavior. So the extra homework discourages the people from talking again during lesson. Okay, so option C is the answer. Alright, in Pavlov classical conditioning experiment, the bell became which of the following? So we learned that the bell started as what? Neutral stimulus and became conditioned stimulus when associated with what? Food. Associated with what? Food. So he says that the bell became which of the following? Conditioned stimulus. Conditioned stimulus. Alright. Thorndike's law of effect was based on experiments with which animal did Thorndike use? Think of the animal that had to try different actions until it learned how to escape. That is try and error. So Thorndike placed a cat or cats in puzzle boxes and observed how they learn to escape by try and error. Now, again, he concluded that behavior by satisfying consequences, which we talk about, are more likely to be repeated. But if it is not, there's no way it will be repeated. We are answering this question by choosing B. A teacher prevents a noisy group of learners from participating in the class activities they enjoy most. And this illustrates what? So here the teacher removed something pleasant to reduce what? Misbehavior. And here negative punishment that we normally use. So happens when pleasant condition is taken away to stop or reduce undesirable behavior. So negative punishment will be our answer. A teacher withdraws playtime from learners who constantly fight. The aggressive behavior decreases with time. This is an example of what? Okay, and I believe that this is an assignment. You need to provide your answer in the comment section. You can also send your answers to me on WhatsApp so that I'll mark it for you. Alright, so there are other questions that you need to answer. So let's go to them. Good. Another question is here. Provide your answer. Alright. Okay, another question. A teacher gradually trains a shy learner to answer in class. First, praising eye contact, then short answers, then full participation. This technique is right. So the hint over here will help you to answer the question. Building confidence step by step. What is that? A teacher first teaches people to repeat after him, then to say short sentences, and finally to construct their own sentences, which I believe you know the answer. Right? Which of the following best reflects the idea or the central idea of behaviorism? Central idea of behaviorism. Learning occurs through mental reflection and insights. Is it true? Learning results from observable change in behavior due to environmental interaction. Learning depends solely on heredity and biological instinct. So I believe that you know the answer. You know the answer. So let me have the answer. All right. Which of the following statements best describe the term tabula rasa as used in behaviorism? Okay. Humans are born with innate ideas. Meanwhile, according to them, it is about environmental interaction. Behavior is determined by unconscious desire. The individuals are born as a blank slate and learn from the environment. Learning is entirely based on biological instincts. So I know you know the answer. All right. Our next video is going to be on cognitivism and constructivism learning theories. So please, again, if you have not subscribed, tap on subscribe to subscribe so that you can enjoy the next videos. Probably you might not get the link, but once you have subscribed, as soon as I post new videos, you'll be notified. So please subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Bye bye.